So the research model, my research design, actually started out with a workshop where the participants worked with different technologies and discussing technologies and how they can use it in mathematics teaching. So in the school year of 2019-2020, they started out with a workshop, and then they have this Change Lab interventions where they discuss how to use it in their specific teachings with the mathematical concept. And after that, they are teaching and using it in the teaching and trying ideas out and working with technology, robots, and so on with the students. And then they go back and discuss how it was showing and how it was figured out in the teaching, what problem and contradictions maybe showed up in the teaching, and so on. They go back and forward to collectively work together a model of how to use computational thinking in mathematics, and then test it and using it out of the schools in the teaching. And this process is going on for the school year, but second grade and in third grade with the students. The activity in the classroom are established with the didactical circle, where the activities and the artifacts are just been testing out with the students, and where they try to get an understanding about the concept about the computer or the robots. And then they are working in small groups and producing of science, mathematical science, and working with different concepts of mathematics. And after that, they are collectively having a mathematical discussion or computational discussion about how to solve different tasks with use of the robots. So I'm looking for the connection between mathematics curriculum and the use of CT, but we don't need to force this one. So we are interested in how computational thinking is being used to elaborate the students' mathematical understanding. And we can see that the collaboration between students is quite good, and the thing with teaching with hands-on materials and tools are helping the students in their development of their mathematical understanding. But also this that they are using different representations. It's a good thing for their development of computational thinking and mathematics understanding, and that they are teaching through problem solving, also debugging and troubleshooting, and they are persistent in their work of development and tasks. So this is an example of where two students are working on a task to categorize different polygons on the basis of different criteria, such as right angle, acute angle, and so on. And through their work on categorizing these polygons, the students develop their understanding about how different polygons have the same characteristics, but also under the task, they're working with the robot and different concepts of computational thinking. So in this way, the students were trained in their computational thinking and mathematical understanding to solve this rewarded task. So it's just like Resnick has pointed out, that introducing computational thinking in schools also involves that the school subject has to be taught through computational thinking and so forth. So computational thinking can be described by the process and approaches that drawing on thinking about how a computer can help us to solve complex problems and create systems, but also drawing on logical reasoning, algorithms, decomposition, abstraction and patterns, and generalization when thinking computationally. So I want to investigate how structures from computational thinking can help the students' mathematical understanding, also without using of technology. So for example, that the students can draw on decomposition when they're working with problems to solve mathematical concepts. Yes, so that was it, I guess.
Thank you for your presentation, Camilla. Very interesting. And let's see if we have any questions. I guess not in the chat. Yeah, please, Gregor.
Camilla, thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting task that you showed us also, which you want to, or which you did employ. Actually, I have a question regarding your research design. What you showed us is that there are different cycles, that the groups are coming back together, the teachers, that they're talking amongst themselves. And you showed us that you started the first cycle in 2019, 2020,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, we all know that COVID hit us. So what did happen to your research during that time? How was it influenced? And I would assume that the teachers don't have that much time anymore afterwards to implement the corresponding lessons. How did you deal with that?
When we have the close down in Denmark, they don't work with CT with the project. So we closed down in March 2020, and then they start again after the summer vacation. So there have been a break in the project. First of all, I had hoped to have a long session, 1.5 years with the students working on computational thinking, but it's have not been like that. So there have been a break in the work with computational thinking. So yeah, was it that answering your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know because I think what you're initially from your methodology, I got that it's important that it's a continuative process. Yeah. And so I thought that maybe it would be, I don't know, somehow possible to catch the teachers or something, or maybe use it as some kind of way to analyze the long-term effect or something like this. I mean, I would try to spin it in a different direction.
Yeah. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, what I mean is, like you said that your project was like on break for 1 year.
Yes.
Basically. And during this 1 year, it was planned that you meet the teachers, that they work with the students and so on. But maybe it would be possible to turn it into a positive direction and look a little bit from a different perspective on it. I would maybe try to have a look and say, okay, so you did already have 1 or 2 sessions with the teachers. How many sessions did you have?
5.
5 already. Then you can say, okay, you had already 5 sessions. So you know that the teachers do have a rough understanding. And maybe you could go into schools now again and have a look, okay, so to what extent did they implement some of the things you showed them, and maybe derive from that point onwards some kind of insights at least, and maybe extract the sustainable, most sustainable, I would say, most sustainable components of your teachings. And yeah.
Yes, and I have to do that before the summer vacation. Again, I have to go out to the school and talk to the teachers, and hopefully I can get into the classroom too to look at how they work with it now and see if there is any different from 2nd grade to 3rd grade, even if they don't have worked that much with computational thinking. So, yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. I guess there was another one beforehand from one participant here. No? Okay, then maybe in the chat. Louise, if you want to ask your question in person.
Yeah, it's because, hi Camilla, in Denmark, like computer science is implemented in mathematics education, while in other countries, it's a separate subject. So so I mean, there's a reason why in some countries they have chosen to have it as a separate subject. So I was thinking, like, what are the negatives of implementing this computational thinking, or not negative, but perhaps constraints or complications, but also what challenges do you think computational thinking can solve when thinking of teaching and learning mathematics? So this is very general and broad questions.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the challenges is that there's not much material about computational thinking and how to use computational thinking in maths teaching, especially not at primary level. So the teachers has to make up tasks and material to use in the teaching. So that is one of the challenges, and but also that the teachers has to understand on the technology very well to design this task in the classroom. So they also have to be like computational thinkers to create materials, and that is one of the challenges in this project right now. But I also think that computational thinking can be used as something good. I already see that especially some of the kids with difficulty in mathematics are beneficial to work with computers and represented mathematical concepts in another way. That's a good thing about using a robot technology and the understanding of computational thinking in mathematics.
Yes, thank you, Camilla, for your presentation and for answering all our questions. I say let's go on with the next presenter, and I'm going to introduce myself. So my name is Corinna Raman. I'm from Johannes Kepler University in Linz. And usually I have my research field in computational thinking. That's why I guess I got into this session. I'm integrating computational thinking and digital literacy, or I try to, in all of the subjects, not only in IT and in math, like we heard before, but in all of them. But of course, when working at university, as I do, so I'm also a research and teaching assistant at University Linz. We came up with some different fields of research, and one of this field was female computer scientists needed, and that's what I'm going to talk about now. So we tried some different approaches for closing the gender gap at our university, and I worked together with Barbara Sabitzer from Instructional Technology, who is also my PhD professor, and with Iris Groha from Business Informatics. And we found out that at our university, despite a great effort, there's the chat in my window, sorry, despite a great effort in teaching and research, still a gender gap could be observed. So, for example, I taught a class last semester in, it was a bachelor's course for first semester IT students. And I had 200 students in there, and only 31 of them were female. So there you can see approximately the distribution of female and male computer scientist students at our university. But sadly, I have to say that not all of those 31 female students finished the first semester, so we had high dropout rates. And at the bachelor's level, this gender gap typically manifests in the poorer performance of female students than male students. We really have data for this, so especially in programming courses, this was the case. As I already said, we have higher dropout rates of female students in computer science courses. But as we all know, the research shows that the gender gap emerges much, much earlier. So girls do not even choose studies or courses in computer science that often, because working on computers is kind of unattractive to them. And they also told us that it seems kind of geeky or nerdy if girls are really into computers. And in this presentation, I want to show some initiatives of my university to address the gender gap. We concentrated on 3 aspects to work on. So we tried to increase interest in computer science starting from an early age on. As a second approach, we were supporting female students during their studies. And the third approach is redesigning programming courses at university. So how did we increase interest in computer science in general? So what we did was we recruited highly gifted girls from Upper Austrian schools for talent programs. Usually those highly gifted girls are really into STEM, that's nice, but they had no separate course introducing them into computer science. That was always a mixed program of boys and girls, and we decided for separate ones. And one was the so-called cyber tutoring. This is a 2-year program. It started first in 2018, and we had 13 girls between ages 13 to 16 in the program. And those girls were brought together with women in higher positions in the fields of STEM. So they met, they talked about how to leap the hurdle, how to become scientists in computer science. And the girls got like leadership courses, developed their own scientific projects, and also got involved in research projects of our department, for example. Another important point that we found out at our university is that the programming courses are really, like they had been before 20 years ago or so. So it was like teacher talking about Java code, students writing that down and trying to code at home. So we already found programs to support beginners at our university, such as tutoring systems or extra training courses, but still many students didn't pass the exam at the end. So we completely redesigned one of the beginner courses of Java development, and together with Iris Groha, she's the associate professor of one of those courses, she is leading one of those courses, let's say it like that. And we, let's go to the next one, that's easier for me. Okay, what did we do in this course? So we completely swapped the lessons to cool programming, so to cooperative open learning programming. So we divided the lessons we had in this Java development course in 3 phases: the questioning phase, the discovering phase, and the pair programming phase. So the questioning phase concentrated on, you can ask anything as a student, you can ask tutors or you can ask your peers, and then the students could clarify questions for understanding. So there was no rule for it, like you can only ask questions concerning the last class or so on, so you can really ask anything. The discovery phase then followed, and this was about discovering structures in Java code, filling out blanks in Java code, experimenting with new lines of code. So not only showing like already final code to students, but also like working with other materials. And the last phase, which I liked most, is the so-called pair programming phase. This is rarely seen at university because sometimes working together in programming is seen as cheating. Computer science people are really strict with that. I don't know why. But to be honest, in real life, no one develops a code alone. So they're always working more people on it than only one. So in this pair programming phase, 2 people or 2 students are working together and writing code or working on tasks. And important here was to check if really they switched positions, so if that everybody can write then the code, and not only one is telling what to write and the other one is only writing. Interesting thing is, as a result, we got better marks at the end of this course than the year before. The second one is running now, so we don't know if it was coincidence. We hope not, but I can tell you after the end of this term if this really helps. Another thing we did was supporting female bachelor students. So we created a peer learning group in winter term 2018 that met weekly in our conference room and discussing upcoming programming tasks. So this was not solely for female students, of course, male students were also welcome. But we found out that female students like to talk about problems and solve them in community rather than solving them home alone. In summertime term 2019, the first official peer learning class started, so students could enroll and get credits for it. And there were 2 PhD students to help with the problem. So one was me and one was my colleague Corinna Otto, talking then later. And we were there to help with problems and in coding, tried to help with theory, but of course we provided no exact solutions. Yeah. The next term, the following term, we changed the system from peer learning to peer teaching. That was also really nice for us because now students of higher levels could also enroll in a course to help. And they now had the role we had before, and as PhD students only worked as supervisors so that no solutions were given out to the tasks they got from university and so on. This helped both parties as the unexperienced programmers learned a lot from the students of the higher semesters, and the higher semester students could dive back into the topics and review structures together with the first semester students. We also found out that female students like the concept of peer learning and peer teaching because they told us, yeah, it's really social and yeah, it's a really more social form than working on code alone at home. Yeah, those 3 things are now in the coming and still running. So coming to a conclusion, our studies have shown an immediate effect of the motivation of female students, and the grades at the end of one term have improved. So let's see if this is still the case this term. Sadly, only one course has changed, but still we could win over one of the professors to a concept. We also want to concentrate on students now with diverse educational backgrounds. So lots of students come into us with a computer science background and lots of us with non-computer science background at all. And so it's really important to foster curiosity in STEM from an early age on, and not only then at the end of school or at university. I want to finish now with a quote from the famous Star Trek actress Nichelle Nichols, and it's, "Science is not a boy's game, it's not a girl's game, it's everyone's game." Thank you. Okay, now I'm trying to host the questions for my presentation. I know that some of you already know my research, that's why. Can I answer any questions concerning these programs at our university? Okay, if not, then I'm going to take it like this, that so there is one question, so you can unmute yourself.
I would like to ask, how did you perform the pair programming section of the course now in the era of home office and
Yeah, of course, this is a very difficult time also for this concept because it works with social forms, and so what we did was they did it with Zoom. So they got together in breakout rooms and then were talking about it with us with a shared programming software, and they did it like that. Of course, that's not the best way to do pair programming, but still it was the best we could do in this time now. Yeah, maybe Janka, you can add your second question now, then it's easier. Yeah.
Okay, I'm using the microphone. Okay, do you have any elements of design-based approach in your course?
Actually, I don't know now because I'm not holding the course itself, but it would be interesting. Yeah, I'm going to ask Professor Grohe. A very nice idea, yeah. Would be interesting to do so.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And there's another one from Louise.
Yes, hi, Corinna. It's because I'm also teaching in computer science, and we actually only have 2 female students, but that's a double of what it was before. So it's kind of thinking, how much do you think this antisocial teaching influences students dropouts? I mean, now you say they program in pairs instead. So how, I mean, what is your, I don't know if you have any data on it yet, but what do you think?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but we don't have any data of that, but I know it from a personal experience. So I studied computer science at this university too, and I know from lots of other female students who come to our department and talk to us. Yeah, because they feel kind of alone then. I bet that male students feel that too, but I only hear it from female students now on, that they say, yeah, I don't know what to do now. I don't know how to write code. I feel kind of alone. I don't know what to do. And I think here, at least enrolling in this course helps to find others who have the same problem and then working together, and you're not that alone anymore. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to introduce the next ones presenting, my dear colleagues Karin Tangler and Oliver Castner-Hauler. Yeah, let's go to the stage.
Oh, thank you, Corinna. Should I share the screen, Oliver? Okay. Mm-hmm. So now you can see my screen. Okay. Yes. We are very pleased to show you our study. We both integrate computational thinking in our PhD, so we decided to do the study together, and we like to present it now. Yes. So let me change the slide. The need for digital education from an early age is undisputed today, and since it is planned to anchor computer science education in the Austrian primary school curriculum, research into teaching methods and content suitable for this area is becoming increasingly necessary. And so, for this reason, we developed a research project with programmable robots and using the method of digital storytelling to promote the introduction to computer science education in primary schools. And this study is part of a long-term educational design research project which focuses on the development of robotics-based learning environments. And to examine one cycle of the design research, a programming unit with the robot Osobot, for primary school students was developed and analyzed. Yes, Oliver.
Thank you, Karin. We have a theoretical framework starting with the International Society for Technology and Education and Computer Science Teachers Association. This is the operational definition they came up with in 2011. So you see 6 steps or 6 aspects of computational thinking. And next slide, please. A few years later, there was by Selby and Woolard a literature review, which I came up in the graphical representation. There are 5 aspects of the computational thinking thought process. So this thought process is about problem solving, but is not limited to the following characteristics because it's cross-discipline. Next slide, please. And following the theoretical framework and the literature reviews led us to the research questions. So which components of the computational thinking process can be identified through the storytelling combined with the programming of the Osobots? And how did the Osobots enhance the computational thinking of the children through these storytelling activities? And back to you, Karin.
Yes, this exploratory sub-study was conducted at an Austrian primary school with 16 third grade students aged 8 to 9 years. There were 5 girls and 11 boys who are already familiar with the basic functions of Osobot programming and have already gained hands-on experience. The research team consists of 2 teachers and 2 researchers. And let me explain the intervention. The students worked in groups of 4 and were given a worksheet with a problem-based task. The students' task was to create a fairy tale based on some given characters. For example, a princess, a dragon, and some facts cross over the river. And now they had to depict the story graphically. And then they should program the story's plot accordingly to carry it out with the Osobot. The students were instructed to use appropriate codes and lines when drawing the story, that the Osobot changes color, spins, or changes its speed. And finally, the story was filmed and presented to the other groups. And then the students have the opportunity to give feedback. Yes, the data collection, classroom observations, teacher interviews, and student-created artifacts provided the data for this cycle of the research project, and the competences identified and defined by the computational thinking framework were the basis for developing the data collection instrument. Then the data were analyzed and coded, and themes for the problem-solving process developed and also interpreted about the computational thinking framework. Interviews delivered data to answer the question of how do Osobots enhance children's computational thinking through storytelling activities. And finally, the student created artifacts, provided data on creativity and problem-solving thinking skills. Yes.
And now you see the observed stages of the problem solving, and during the storytelling units, the stages were investigated in what extent computational thinking could be identified and classified to the previously mentioned 6 steps of the theoretical framework. And maybe you can see that the Otherpod offers a simple way to teach the basic concepts of programming and or computational thinking in a playful way, and to strengthen and build the problem-solving skills. Back to you, Karin.
Yes. Okay. And here you can see the aspects which were identified. We call them the Mosaic Aspects. Yes, motivation and enthusiasm. Due to working with the robot, the students were motivated to work on their problem-based tasks, and enthusiasm for the storytelling as a result could be observed. And then orientation, special abilities are fostered with these activities. And the structuring, the students worked in a structured manner by drawing the plot. And the abstraction, the graphic representation abstracts the plot of the story, and by retelling the story is decoded again. And interactivity, important aspect is that of interactivity, because the students can intervene at any time in the presentation and design of the story, and change details all the time. And communication and collaboration, these are 2 important aspects too, to achieve a common goal by developing a problem-solving strategy. Yes, we come to the conclusion. Yes, the results of this study show that combining educational robots and the method of digital storytelling is a good possibility to implement computer science education in primary education, and in an interdisciplinary approach. And by the way, it supports and promotes the development of computational thinking skills. Okay, thank you. I hope you enjoyed our presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Karin and Oliver. I personally like or love those little Autobots and like to teach and play with them. So, any questions from the audience to Karin and Oliver? Yeah. Yes, please, Janka, unmute yourself and ask your question in person.
I'm sorry, I haven't introduced myself before. My name is Janka Medova, and I am from the University in Nitra, Slovakia. And I am now in math education, but I'm teacher of 2 subjects, math and computer science. One question for you is that you work with primary teachers, or in Slovakia, and I think it's similar in Austria, that you have primary teachers like generalists for all the subjects. How do they cope with all this technology and robots and programming? Because here in Slovakia, it's quite usual that the lower secondary or secondary teachers teach the computer science or programming in primary level. How it is in your case, please?
Yes, I think it is in the very beginning that the primary school teachers should be taught in this discipline, and there are only some examples where primary school teachers use educational robotics in their teaching.
Maybe I can help out, Karin. The research we did is basically on our university where we work for teacher education, and therefore the teachers, not normal primary teachers. So when they are confronted with the possibility to take part in the study, in the research, and they are willing, so they are interested person, so they will try to overcome obstacles even if they don't know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think Martin rose his hand.
Yes.
And Gregor.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, you were first.
Or yours?
Sorry,
okay.
Martin first.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Katrin and Oliver. I have two questions. The first one is, Karin, you mentioned that lines and codes were used when the pupils depicted the line that the robots had to follow. What kind of codes is it that they follow? And maybe also the second question, you were in one school when you made your, or when you observed the children. To what degree do you think your results are generalizable? Is it independent from the school, or are there certain limitations? This would be my two questions.
Okay, first I show the codes and then Oliver can continue. Okay. Can you see the codes? The Ozobot needs the color red, green, and blue, and the codes can be sticked with stickers on black lines, and so the Ozobot runs over the lines.
It turns or flashes the light or changes the speed depending on the color reflection the Ozobot gets.
Can we see this? For example, the little Red Riding Hood. Examples like this, they have to draw lines and tell a story. Okay, Oliver.
I think the generalizability needs more research and more foundation, because as I said before, these teachers that take part are special teachers, and we are trying to foster computational thinking in primary school so that it finally takes place also in the curriculum for the teacher education. Right now, they get it as a second or third intervention when they are already teachers, but it needs to be fixed at the first place. So during the first education cycle before they get teachers would be preferable. So because Karin, you already mentioned when the teachers are familiar, we just did a literature review of an article. When the teachers get the hands-on experience with educational robots, they don't think that it's too difficult. And they also, if they have the hands-on experience, they know or they see themselves that it is possible to offload the thinking process, the teacher's experience, to the children. So the first obstacle is it is too difficult for the teachers. When they know it's not difficult, they maybe think it's too difficult for the students, but it's not for both of them.
Okay, but that sounds like you have to start with some schools, and then you can, yeah. make more out of it. Okay, thank you.
So let's answer Gregor's question now, and maybe Oliver and Karin, you can answer Louis' question then in the chat, that we can move on afterwards. But Gregor, please.
Yes, thank you very much for your interesting presentation, presenting the Ozobots. I was reading about them sometimes, but I honestly don't know them that much myself. So my question would be, you did your study in an elementary school, in primary school, and is it also possible to use the Ozobots to actually teach more complex programming or logical patterns like conditions? And Corinna was actually giving us a link, and it showed that there you could use also counters. So I guess it's possible to use some kind of repetitions, at least to some degree. So my question is, would it be possible to actually use Ozobots also in secondary schools to teach more advanced programming or more advanced computational thinking, rather computational thinking aspects? What is your estimation from, or based on your experience right now?
I think Oliver can explain it much better than I.
Okay, I will try. I think yes, but the Ozobot can also be programmed. I think we are an interface on the website, and you then stick the Ozobot to the display. You stick it, and with the color code, it gets programmed through the display. So there is more possible than just drawing lines on the paper. I'm not so extremely familiar because my second name is Mr. Microbit, and I therefore work with the microbit in secondary. And Karin works more with the Ozobot.
Yes, there is a visual programming language called Ozoblockly, and so you can use this in secondary schools and with much more complex problem tasks.
Yeah, and you could even use JavaScript. I tried it out once.
And also there are apps you can use, and yes, there are a lot of possibilities to play with the Ozobot.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Karin and Oliver. So we clearly see that Ozobots are in the coming and interesting for all of us. And I'd like to move on to Corbinian Otto. He is doing his PhD in gamification in education, and we're going to listen to his presentation now.
Okay, so I'm Corinna Otto. My topic of my PhD is gamification in school, and that's quite a wide topic. So I focus on the distribution of player types in school. The use of games in educational context is quite an old way to foster learning. So, and by now, learning games are well established in schools and subjects like geography, like you can see on the left side, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, where you need to hunt Carmen Sandiego all over the world. It's not only a PC game, it only made a game show for kids in the 90s, maybe you saw it, and current running series. Or history, like the game in the middle, or in computer science, you can see it on the right, it's Code Combat. It's a web-based platform where you can learn programming with a storyline. But gamification is not the use of learning games in classroom, there are a lot of definitions. So today in the first session, we were talking about the problem about multiple definitions, and gamification is really horrible with definitions. So there are a lot of definitions for just the same thing. And because it's quite near, there's also no final accepted definition. But the mostly used is, so first, it's not using learning games, but it's the use of game elements in non-game context. That's the mostly used definition of gamification. First studies were published in 2012, and in the school system, that's really new. That's quite new. So because of that, there's no really good definition at the moment. Since this time, gamification became a trending topic, and more papers are published analyzing different trial phases and how to use gamification in class. And if teachers wanted to enhance their lessons with gamification, multiple gamification platforms support them with predefined game elements ready to use, like the one I used for a trial phase I'm coming to in a few minutes. That was Classcraft. But there's no one-size-fits-all recipe of using gamification in class. Well-received gamification platform in one class can horribly fail in another class, because sometimes the used game elements are not fit to the students' interests. But when it comes to gamification, it's possible to identify these interests by classifying the students as belonging to player types. Bartel was the first one who identified player types in games in his paper Hearts, Clubs, Diamonds, Spades. He analyzed 4 different player types playing multi-user dungeon games: the killer, the achiever, the socializer, and the explorer, each one with unique characteristics, preferred and unwanted game elements. So the killer prefers acting on the player, the achiever likes acting on the world, the socializer likes interacting with players, and the explorer likes interacting with the world. That's the 4 main pieces, player types of him. And with these 4 player types, Bartel made the foundation of a variety of different studies and different player types and classifications. In my PhD, I'm not using Bartel. I'm using BrainHacks, the player types from BrainHacks. There are 7 different archetypes, and it's based on an online questionnaire that was filled out more than 50,000 times. So it's a quite big database, and they found 7 different player types: the survivor, the seeker, the socializer, the conqueror, daredevil, mastermind, achiever. They are sometimes similar with the from Bartel, but sometimes got a little bit different from Bartel's definition. And a second special thing and with BrainHacks is they are not only classified the students for the main class, but they also use a subclass. You can see it here. The first is the main class and the second is the subclass, because you're not only, it's often you don't fit exactly in one class, but have a mixture of 2 classes. I made a trial phase in lower secondary school in Austria, and with 2 classes, and the one semester, one half of the year, they were taught in the traditional way, so with all the traditional information The topics were, one was computer science and one was history. And in the second semester, I used a gamification platform. I used Classcraft to add game elements to the lessons. And one class accepted the technique really good, and the second class absolutely not. They didn't accept the platform, and they don't use the features of the platform. And yeah, I was thinking, why was it? Why did it work in one class really good, and why did it so really fail in the second class? So in one class, I may already analyzed everything, and you can see the final grades were rising in the second semester from an average from 3 to 2. And if you teach, homework is some kind of special thing. Not every student is willing to bring homework. And there in the second semester, the students gave me all of the homework I was giving them, and also made voluntary homework to work with the platform and get additional coins and XP to use it later in the game. So I was thinking, what was happened? I made the students were at the same age. It was the same school. I was the same person, but it was really different. So I analyzed the player types, and I saw, okay, the main types were quite similar. So there was just the survivor type main one was the class that worked really good, and the 2 was the class where it failed the whole project. So you can see it's quite similar in the main class. But if you go to the second class, you can see absolutely no socializer was in the second class, but there were a lot of daredevils. The rest was quite similar, but this was really interesting that there were absolutely no socializer and a lot of daredevils. What are socializer and daredevil? Socializer are trying to are trusting people, trying to help other, and hanging around with people. Some preferred games are Pokemon or WoW, where you are really in a group, you help each other, you try to achieve something together, and that's in the platform, in the gamification platform. They were combined in groups and trying to help each other and trying to achieve more and more. And daredevils are like thrill-seeking. They're risk-taking. They're trying to go around as fast as possible, but keep in control. And they like games like Call of Duty, GTA, or Mario Kart. So if you ever played Mario Kart, you're quite fast and trying to be the first and don't look on any other. So that's two absolutely different types of player, and that's one possible explanation why while my test failed in the second class. I need to make further research. Maybe if there are just special classes, special types in different schools, but the first information and the first data is quite interesting, and that is going to be my PhD thesis. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Corinna. Even if I know his studies well, I didn't know the last one. So very interesting that there were no socializers at all. Do we have any questions to?
So,
you know, you shouldn't take that personal. It's the last one, and maybe you explained everything that precisely, so there were no questions left.
Or I totally confused everyone. That's also.
I wouldn't say that. So if there are no questions, I thank you all for joining this session, and hopefully see you again today or tomorrow. And have a nice day. It's snowing here in Austria. I don't know how the weather is at your place. Okay. Yeah, have a nice day and see you.